Dragon Ball Z Kakarot is a battle. It's a fist fight between the part of us that loves Dragon Ball Z and the part of us with a more critical eye. Every time we think one side will come up on top, the other screams for 30 seconds, their hair starts glowing, and the tides quickly turn. During our time with Dragon Ball Z Kakarot, we've often found ourselves torn between these two perspectives, either grinning during high-intensity moments or sighing due to the dull repetition that plagues large portions of this otherwise enjoyable title. In essence, Dragon Ball Z Kakarot is an okay role-playing game with a fantastically fun combat system. It's in the battles that it shines the brightest, with projectiles flying all over the place and fighters yelling when they charge up for their next special move. At first, it seems quite simplistic, with dedicated ranged buttons and melee buttons begging to be mashed vigorously. When combined with a selection of super moves specific to each character and defense options like a burst that repels enemies, the encounters never become too stale or repetitive. It only gets better as you progress. New unlockable attacks can be swapped in and out at your pleasure. A partner system lets you call in assistance, and a transformation mechanic allows you to further boost your power. All of this built on a foundation of responsive movement options. Not once were we frustrated when attempting to close the distance or dodge a ranged attack. Sadly, the same cannot be said for the open world. Scattered around the numerous areas you can explore are activities you can participate in, such as fishing sports, animals to hunt, dinosaurs to slay, and upgrade orbs to collect. While the inclusion of so much side content sounds great on paper, it's far too shallow. With hunting, you assume you need to lurk at a distance, only to approach when the target's back is turned. But that's rarely the case. Playing one of the godlike characters that Dragon Ball Z Kakarot provides, you can just run down any animal you see and smack it with ease. Dinosaurs would appear to provide some extra challenge, but taking one down is as simple as lobbing a dozen ki blasts in its direction. So many of the side activities that are available quickly become repetitive and basic, and soon it becomes a grind. Thankfully, it's largely a grind you can avoid. While fishing and hunting allow you to create meals that boost your stats, we never felt as though we were forced to grind out these boosts in order to progress through the story. The same goes for the upgrade orbs, which are so saturated throughout the zones you explore. We found we had more than enough by simply picking them up as we completed quests. That being said, there are some brilliant aspects of Dragon Ball Z Kakarot tucked away within the game's otherwise dull RPG sections. The foremost being the community board system. It works like this. You have 7 boards that represent communities Dragon Ball Z characters are a part of. They're represented with a web of connections, where you can attach different characters together to gain in-game bonuses. It's one element of Kakarot's RPG side that invites experimentation and satisfying micromanagement. We are also big fans of how you acquire and improve characters in these community boards. You obtain emblems that represent characters through story and side quests. No grinding, no fuss. If you happen to miss a side mission that will provide such an emblem, you can use a time machine later in the game to head back to previous parts of the story and grab anything you missed, at a cost of course. Throughout your time playing, you are given items that boost certain stats on your emblems. So let's say you have an item that boosts the stat used in the cooking community. Giving that to Chi-Chi will boost her cooking stat, and thus improve that board while she's in it. It's a neat addition to the community boards that allows you to either pamper your favorite characters with gifts and treats, or spend hours determining the most efficient way to boost your stats with strategic item use. Regardless of whether you're fighting or flying around, a clear love for this series and attention to detail can be found in every corner of Dragon Ball Z Kakarot. The opening cinematic is unapologetic in its reverence for Dragon Ball Z, zooming through memorable moments from the series with the classic theme booming out. Once you boot the game up and explore, you can discover an all-you-can-eat buffet of sights and sounds from the series. It's a cool feeling running into some familiar faces or coming across a setting for a future battle. If nothing else, fans will often find themselves stumbling across something they recognize with a new shiny look, a result of what surely must have been a massive effort from the team responsible. This intense adoration for the subject matter reaches its pinnacle during the big fights at the end of each story arc, where the game goes from looking good to downright dazzling. Every iconic scene you could think of, from Yamcha lying dead in a crater to Boo killing everyone on Earth, is recreated brilliantly. But for all that, the biggest issue we have with Dragon Ball Z Kakarot is we're unsure of who it's for. It's clearly intended for an audience familiar with the series, people who are massive fans of the show and need no explanation regarding who the main characters are and their stories prior to Dragon Ball. Being a game for fans isn't a bad thing, right? Not at all. There's absolutely nothing wrong with making games targeted towards your core audience. However, this game is aimed at a die-hard Dragon Ball Z fan. Why is it covering story arcs that are 20, 30 years old? Yes, it's cool to see Vegeta, Frieza, Cell, and Boo arcs polished up with the love and care in 2020. But it's something fans of the series have seen a million times. There are no twists, no surprises, and no new story in the game at all. So it doesn't distract from the fact that we've been here before. Dragon Ball Z Kakarot is a fine game, with its best moments being wonderful renditions of beloved scenes from one of the most popular animes of all time. It oozes with passion for the source material, but we could only recommend it to someone who can match that fondness. If you've only a passing interest in Dragon Ball Z, or worse yet, no interest at all, we just don't think this one's enough for you. The verdict is, with all being said, poor mechanics aside, Dragon Ball Z Kakarot is a great way to relive the story. And even with the flaws it possesses, it's still a very good game, which we think deserves a 7 out of 10.
We've done all we can do here, but that doesn't mean the fun has to end. I'll leave you with some of my creations. They should provide enough entertainment for you.